Hello, my name is Speake-Marin. I'm an English watchmaker living in Switzerland. My watchmaking journey began in 1985. I visited a very kindly careers teacher who literally took a dossier out from the bottom of a cupboard, blew the dust off of it and said, "This might be interesting for you." And it was the prospectus for Hackney Technical College. From a very early age, I actually found something which fitted. And to this day, I'm very grateful for that. I always wanted to get out of England. That was one of my driving. I always wanted to travel. One of the very early reasons why I got into watchmaking was that I knew that if you are a qualified watchmaker, then there's actually positions pretty much anywhere in the world. Myself and my wife, we were living in a small farmhouse in Luxe, and I converted one of the bedrooms into a workshop. So I had the basic knowledge, I had the tooling, and I had the motivation to be able to make my own piece. So I wanted to prove to myself that not only was I a watchmaker per se, somebody who could actually make watches, but could also make a construction and make something which on a design level was aesthetically pleasing. It had to be a pocket watch because that's really where I came from. I wanted to be a tourbillon because it was something which is complex, but there's an animation, it's visual. The pocket watch ended up becoming known as the foundation watch because every element of the DNA which organically developed in this watch, then I took and I used in the wristwatches to produce the very first collection. When I started it, I knew technically how the wheels were going to be located, how the cage was going to be made, but aesthetically I didn't really have an idea of what it was going to look like. And it really did develop over, I don't know exactly how long, but it was over a 2-year period that the piece was actually born. I have the Piccadilly case. It's not the name of a model, but it's very much the name of that style of case. And all of my wristwatches are carried inside of this particular case. If you go back to the beginning of wristwatch making, you're not looking that far back. You're looking back to around 1900, between 1900 and 1920. Back in that time, everything that was being done in wristwatches, it was being done for the first time. You have pocket watches and you have marine chronometry, but wristwatches was something which were really very new, very fresh. Today, I'm kind of the belief that there's a new era in watchmaking. And because of the openness and because of a new market initially generated by not only collectors but people who are just passionate about watchmaking, there's the opportunity for people like myself to be able to actually express our own personalities, our own philosophies, our approach to watchmaking in our watches and be able to make a living out of being able to do that. Every component that you see here is made for this caliber. Aesthetically, it's unique. The piece, the movement as such is also heavily over-engineered. The components are held down by more screws, the thicknesses, the tolerances, everything is beyond what conventional movements are. One of the things which helps invaluably to independent watchmaking is education. And through the internet, through all the different forums which exist today, the amount of knowledge which is in the marketplace is stronger and more pertinent than it ever has been in history. There's a lot of little retouches that have to be made. You have to test the pieces, both for precision timing, as well as for if it's an automatic, you've got to make sure the automatics are working correctly. The watches are all tested for at least a couple of weeks before they leave the atelier. I produce 100 pieces. Next year I'll be up to maybe 200 watches. So I'm making minuscule numbers of pieces, and in a way using methods which are normally only used in very high-end complications, where the price of that kind of detail and quality and finishing can be absorbed into a watch of a very complex nature. And one of the things that I do quite a lot is I travel a bit. I actually live one of the dreams that I had when I was younger. And I go and I meet collectors. I give lectures or talks and dinners, talk about what I do, my own kind of watchmaking, but I also mention independent watchmaking as a whole. Because the better educated people are, the stronger a future people like me will actually have. This was one of the very first designs that I made, and when I was making these pieces, I used existing calibers and then I modified them to follow into my style. There's a philosophy behind all of the watches which is linked to their volume and their size, which is for strength. If you make something which has a certain substance to it, then it has more strength than something which is incredibly fine. This is actually the last watch, or the last of a series I made, which I designed, the movement I designed for Harry Winston. So I actually took a caliber which existed and I completely remodeled it, design-wise as well as technically. You have a warning here, and when you get to the last, there's 110 hour power reserve, and when you get to the last day, in this window, it turns red. So right now it's red, so it's in the last day. And on the back of the watch, if I can just very quickly do this. Okay, on the back of the watch, you have two power indicators, retrograde. So here it's 0 to 55 and then 55 to 110 hours. And all of the bridges, everything that you see here is all engraved and finished by hand. One of the fundamental things is that there's a freedom associated with being able to choose what you do and what you don't do. And that freedom to be able to develop your own designs the way you want to is what I think results in a final watch that differentiates you from other people, because it's really who you are and it's dictated by what your perception of design or art or quality proportion is. Am I happy? I'm happy. I love what I do. Everything I've done in my career has been about learning. The moment I stop learning, I move on. And now I do something which is endless. I have endless ideas. I'm 42 years old, I've got X number of years ahead of me, and I just want to realize as many of those ideas that I have in the time that I have left.